Awesome. Well, hello, Web23 and Lambda Launch students. If you guys are here, we're very happy we were able to get a link out to you guys. Today we're going to go over Web23's build week. This time around we went through React Unit 2. We just finished our time with Dustin Myers, learning a ton of good stuff about React. We got 3 projects that are going to demo today, and we're so excited to have them. First, we're going to let Louise come in here and tell us all about Block Club Calendar. Louise, once you can unmute yourself, the floor is yours. You should be good.
Quick audio check.
We can hear you. Awesome.
Okay, cool. I know folks probably got this in the class demo this morning, so I will keep it pretty brief, but I'm excited to get more feedback from the Sharks. And I demoed last week too, and I always like to look a little bit at the code at the end because, the product's cool, but how to replicate the cool projects that I see is like more interesting to me in a lot of ways as a student. So I was the only React 3 guy. We had a real tight team, one React 1, one React 3, one backend, one UI. So that meant, everybody really showed up to work, but it was also a little bit of a challenge there, and everybody did a great job trying to push all the components and products with just such a small crew. So to talk about the problem we were trying to solve, this was actually a user submitted product, and I was a user who submitted it. I recently moved to Detroit, and there's a lot of nonprofits here, a lot of community groups, block clubs, and once people kind of heard that I was involved in Lambda, people, of course, came up with ideas for things I could make to help them, since I'm now like the guy who can make things, which, was a role I was excited about. So I submitted this block club calendar idea, trying to solve this problem in Detroit's North End when there's so many community development groups, nonprofits, like, events going on at the Dolores Bennett Park. There's a big city park in our neighborhood, and a lot of times people come home and like stuff's going on. I didn't know it was going on because there's so many different sources and email lists and things like that for people trying to do community development in the North End. So we just wanted to solve that problem for the One Gateway community nonprofit of creating a single place specifically for this neighborhood in Detroit where folks could post their events. And our solution was the Block Club calendar, which we're going to fork and host for One Gateway community nonprofit here as soon as build week is over. So it's a public access calendar. The whole point is anybody can see the events that are going on in the community. For example, this is our city councilwoman is Mary Sheffield, and she conducted a event on Tuesday. A town hall, talked about tax assessments, things like that that are really important to residents. And then there's all these nonprofits, the Historic North End Alliance is the organization that asked us to make the calendar. They have a meeting once a month. Tonight, actually, I'm going to this event. The Detroit People's Food Co-op, they're opening up a grocery store in our neighborhood. They're doing an event to show a movie and try and sell memberships to the food co-op. They're going to go up. So let's say I want to RSVP to this event because I know I'm going. Well, then we guide the user through the flow. They got to make an account. Okay, so now I'm logged in. I go here. Cool, I can RSVP. Can see other folks are going to the event. But what's even better is here's a community member who's authorized myself and logged in. I can create my own event. So let's say we're doing a park cleanup at the Dolores. We'll just call it park cleanup. We're going to do this next week before Halloween, get the neighborhood looking great for the kids. We'll do it at 2 p.m. Okay, the location is going to be the Dolores Bennett Park, and then we can offer here a description of the event. We're going to get staff and volunteers from DT, which is our local utility company, to join into us. Then we can link to a external image here. And when we create our event, we have an error because I think we actually broke it in the last hour, which isn't super cool because the backend guy pushed some updates after the morning demo, but it's all good. But you can see that we have nice error handling for the UX UI. If you get an error back for the server, you get a little dialogue and you can act on that. And then when you scroll down for events that you have created, you have the ability, or if you're logged in as an admin, you have the ability to edit or delete the events. And that's kind of the end of our user experience. Features we're thinking about in the future is admin accounts currently can edit and delete all events, but in the database, we put a little field for whether or not an event is approved, and we might make events by default be unapproved, and unapproved events don't display, but there's a separate view where admins can review and approve events. That's a future feature. Then, of course, this is a calendar, but it's organized as a list of cards. But what everybody wants from a calendar is to see a calendar, like some kind of calendar view that'll guide people, kind of orient them to this is a calendar, click on a month, click on a day, take you to the events that are happening on that day. So sorry that the add event function kind of went down since the demo this morning and the demo now. But that is the Block Club calendar.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much. So first shark up, we have Devin.
I think you're on mute, Devin.
All right, there I am. So the first thing that I noticed that I think is good, can I ask, what did you use for the styling for this app?
So we used Material UI, which was a little bit of a learning curve, but once you kind of got over that hump, which took us about 2 days, you could really run with it. So, the buttons, the floating buttons, the shadow, the elevation of objects, all of these are built-in Material UI features. And so that's what we used to achieve all that pretty quickly.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm always a big fan of styling frameworks because like you said, it does take a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get there, it's a lot easier. You just import what you need and you just stick it in and it has all the styles that you want. A couple of things you did point out yourself. I do think that it would be nice to have this be an actual calendar view just so that people could, like you were kind of pointing out, kind of see it with that kind of user experience. Another thing that I noticed, it looks like all of this right now is just like kind of like dummy data just for like seed data. But one thing that can kind of help, might be nitpicky, but for like presentation purposes, right now it looks like all of the times are close to the same, but they're also, I don't know, I guess that they're not like exactly on the hour. So like for an actual event starting at like 3:09 in the afternoon seems a little strange. And that might just be me being picky, but I think just for presentation purposes, setting them at like a perfect hour or like a perfect 30 mark would look a little bit more like an actual event that you'd see. And then one more question I wanted to ask, because I know you mentioned admins saying like whether an event would be approved or unapproved. Who would those admins be?
Yeah, so basically, it's a public thing. Anybody can fork it and host it. The One Gateway Community nonprofit, Electra Fulbright, she's the person who asked me to submit this project and work on it. So really, she's like, that whole admin feature is just for her originally. But, she can, of course, like add other people to help review and approve events. And so the idea is like, anybody who wants to create this kind of calendar for their neighborhood could fork our repo. It's open source and use it. But the specific implementation I'm going to be helping with in the next 2 weeks is for One Gateway Community.
Gotcha. So the idea is like you're creating a base that then other communities can use so that their community has a calendar.
Right. And then they can make themselves admin. They just need somebody to set it up for them. So I'll set it up for Electra, and she is the person I have in mind when we created this admin capability, and it was a feature she requested.
Sweet. I think it's good. It looks like you have a good MVP, a good like foundation, and you already know like a couple of steps to improve. So I think it's good overall.
Cool.
Thank you, Devin. Great feedback. Next up, we have Michaela.
I just want to start by saying that I think this is really good. I really liked your presentation. I like that you're able to like give this to multiple communities, and it wouldn't be that difficult to set it up for them as well. I do really like that you're able to see the events before you log in. I think it's really easy to say like everything is hidden behind this login wall, but the fact that you don't have to have an account in order to just see like what is happening. I really, really do appreciate that. Let's see. So something I did want to say is this is the reason that we have feature freezes. So if you're going into a presentation, like let's say it's a professional presentation, you don't want anyone to be able, to push any code after you say like, all right, this is done. Nobody touch it. Nobody merge a pull request until we have, until we're doing our next sprint, essentially. Because then things break.
No, I agree. And then so we actually just pulled the local host back up, and those bugs with displaying 1509 for every event. And actually, I'm pretty sure if we log in now, all the edit and delete buttons are here and they're working. So absolutely, feature freeze is a gem. After we did our presentation this morning, we kind of got a little bit back to work because we were so excited about it. Mm-hmm. But absolutely, holding off till after the cohort presentations is the better solution.
Yeah. So a question I have for you, is this the admin view or is this the public view?
So this is an admin view. So you get edit and delete for everybody. And then if I log out through my high-speed refresh button, new user. So me as a user, I cannot see the buttons except for an event that I create, like we kind of talked about. I won't run you through it, but you'll see the edit and delete buttons for that event you create as a user.
Okay, but that won't actually show up on this page when you create an event?
Well, actually it will, because we haven't implemented the admin review feature. We just built the capability into the database. So right now it displays every event, whether it's approved or not, because we didn't have time to sort of make the view for doing. So yeah, there's the event you created.
Gotcha.
And you have the ability to edit it and then delete it. But as far as the view for admins to approve, the endpoints are there, like the other stuff is there. It's just with the 2 React developers, this is how far we got in view rendering by feature freeze.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like this is the kind of project that you're going to continue to be working on. If I may suggest, like adding in a filter, just so, hey, I want to see what's going on in this day. That's what it's sure. But overall, I think this is really great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. Next up, Dustin.
Hey, what's up? So I really like how clean and intuitive this is. Like the functionality is definitely there. And I can easily see where you're going to go with this and what you can improve on. Like Michaela said, adding filters. So you can, once you get so many events, you can easily get to what you want to see. One thing I would improve on is the styling.
Mm-hmm.
This actually kind of reminds me of like an infomercial or something from like the early thousands. But that's not really, that's more of a UX job. It's not like a front end job, so I can't complain too much. Yeah. One thing I would recommend is, like, I think Michaela, like you mentioned this, like try to avoid errors during the presentation. Like if you know somebody's working on something, kind of mention that it's there, but walk around it.
For sure.
Yeah. Oh, when you do create a event, or when you click the event app or create event, I really like that pop-up. And I especially like the clock that you have in there to set a time.
Yeah.
That looks really nice. And I'm not sure if that's part of Material UI, but I like that.
Yeah. So if it's okay, I'll just want to take like one quick more minute and show some of the code. I always like to do that in the section level demos because, like, talking about the product and that stuff is cool. But, whenever I see these great things, I'm like, well, how can I do that myself? So one thing, it was kind of a big exciting thing for me, was cracking the nut on error handling. And I finally could, because we learned Redux. And so just right here is for the auth reducer, we track whether there is an error and an error. And when you go to that reducer and you get an error back from the server, just like you're setting, your response to the token, you set your error response to be this error message, and you flip this to true. And then really it was just these 3 lines of code added in the effect, during that login, which I gave bad credentials instead of just, nothing happening and not knowing what's going on. This conditionally rendered this little error message. And just realizing that, you know, this syntax means if this is true, then do this. That was a fun nut to crack. And then because we have multiple things going on, multiple server queries when you go to our thing, they taught us how to do combined reducers. This is the first time we had done that. What's great is when you go into something where you're maybe looking at multiple forms of the state, it makes it easy, you know, because you'll have multiple is posting, you'll have multiple is error, you'll have multiple error messages. And then this just separates it all out in your state store, because every reducer, right, for authorization, I have my own error, is error, and success. And when I go to event reducer, it has its own, you know, error, is error, and success. And then just, you know, realizing that, you know, the reducers let us piece that stuff out. And then really, like I said, these 3 lines of code, adding an error message when something go wrong really goes a long way for user experience. Like I wasn't expecting the error when I submitted that post-event form. I was unpleasantly surprised. But I got an error message, so I knew what was wrong with my server. So I just wanted to offer that little piece. And if anybody wants to talk about code afterwards, you can DM me on Slack.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I really like how clean this is, and even working in labs, I set up something very similar to this where I sent more useful feedback when errors popped up. That's another thing I really like about this. But with that said, if you're, well, this is good for like this audience, but presenting to a different audience, I wouldn't go into the code at all.
For sure.
Because I think that's when you start losing people. But this
No,
being
I agree,
a developer
100%.
community, get some leeway there. But awesome app and good job. I want to see what this turns into in the future if you work on it.
Okay, Ty, thank you.
Awesome. Great job. And thank you so much for presenting and putting yourself out there. I really, really like the way that this whole project looks. Just a quick thing that I don't think anyone mentioned, the time stamp. It's like 15:07 p.m. It would be helpful. You pick one or the other. Yeah, that is the only thing. All right. Thank you so much. And thank you, Sharks. Ty, let's introduce the group.
Yeah, thank you, Louise. Everyone give a round of applause. That was really well done. Honestly, that was a very clean application, and I definitely can imagine you're going to knock it out if you keep working on that. But next up, we're going to check out Fish Friends with our buddy Michael. So come on in, Michael, and show us all your stuff.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Mike. This is going to be an outstanding presentation. Raise your hand if you've ever heard a fish story. All right. Maybe raise your hand if you've ever exaggerated. All right. Fish stories are a big part of tradition. Family traditions, national traditions. They're the intersection point of statistics and folklore. They're where families and friends write their histories and pass them down through generations. In our increasingly wired society, it's impossible to guarantee that oral tradition will keep your family history alive. Here at Fish Friends, we're looking to bring your fishing tales, however tall or small they may be, into the immortal data soup of the 21st century. Let's have a look at how we'll do that. Let's make history right here together. Let's say Big Ben has a story to tell. We'll simply log into Fish Friends and we'll be taken to Big Ben's stories. Ben's been out a couple places here in Minnesota, caught some humble fish, but let's tell a new story. We're going to say we went to the Minnesota River. We used a bare hook. We caught a great white shark. You know what? We caught 4 of them in about 20 minutes. Because you know what? I'm a legend, at least. I am now. And it does seem like there is maybe some problems on the back end. We've had the Heroku app has been restarting on him a lot, which tends to make things go bad. Let's go and see how the story stacks up. It does look like it was just lagged, which is quite a relief to me. Let's go see how Big Ben's story stacks up with the rest. We will go here to the Minnesota River, and we'll be able to see everyone's stories. Zipper's been out. He caught some trout. Big Ben's been out. He caught a great white shark on a bare hook. Now, let's say you fished a new lake that's not already in the database. And let's write our new history. We're going to have fished with a magic sword. We caught a lovely mermaid. We caught one, and it took an hour. We'll submit that, and we should see that appear here on our map view. Let's find it. We can go here to the Lake of the Willingdon, and we see what we did. Now, your stories live forever, so when my kids ask how, say, I met their mother, I need only point to fish friends. Those are my stories, but the ending to our story is waiting to be written. Thanks for listening, and make sure you check out Fish Friends.
Woohoo! Thank you, Michael. First up, we have Michaela.
Could you continue sharing your screen so we can keep talking about it?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you. First of all, I want to say this is a killer logo, and I know that seems like it doesn't really mean a lot, but it just goes to show it doesn't take a lot of time to make your site look like good, clean, and professional, and that starts with what does your landing page look like. I would really appreciate if you would talk a little bit now about who was on your team, because I think that makes a big difference. And you guys worked for about 4 days, right? So that could be anywhere from 3 people to 12. And I'm not saying that that makes a big difference in how impressed I am with your work, but that is something that you're going to want to mention when you're giving your presentation.
Oh, of course. We had a great UI guy named Chase Redford. He was from, I guess he'd be WEB23. He was a joy to work with. We coordinated well on the look and feel. I don't actually have the link for his marketing page, or I would show you. It's quite nice. My backend guy was a gentleman named John Solari. He did Java, which I sort of resent, as it was a extra bunch of hoops to jump through. But it was fun to learn that stuff together, and he was a fantastic teammate. I was the only contributor to the React front end. That was my team.
Yeah, okay. So that does make a big difference, right? Because you made this entire front end application by yourself. Then I understand, right?
That's true.
Right. So there are other teams here that had 2 React 2 devs, 3 React 1 devs, and so they had teams of 5 or 6, so that's incredibly impressive. I really like the map. What happens if you type in something like a location that doesn't exist?
It adds it to the list. We can make a new one real quick, assuming all is well. Let's make one called Michaela Lake, and we'll say we used a worm to catch a largemouth bass. We caught 20 of them in 20 minutes because it's the best lake on earth. We will submit it, and we should see it is one of these pins. There it is.
Oh, so just puts it somewhere.
Yeah, it populates a new location. It's not actually connected to a GPS. It randomly generates the longitude, latitude.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes more sense. Okay.
Sure.
Cool. Yeah. I think this is a really, really great application, especially for the time constraints, and considering you did this all by yourself. I think it's a really clean application. And just like last time, really great presentation. I love the storytelling aspect that you bring into it. It doesn't feel like you're being presented something. It's like you're being told a story. And I really appreciate that. So overall, good job.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for your insightful feedback, Michaela. Next, we have Dustin.
I just want to add to Michaela's closing argument. Your enthusiasm is just through the roof. You really drew me in with that story. Kind of actually reminded me of the Wolf on Wall Street. I wanted to buy whatever you were selling.
Well, thank you.
Your logo, also amazing. I'd probably make it pop out a little bit more, but I really like how it looks. Like Michaela said, this is a really good app, especially for a 3-person team in 4 days. One thing I would like to see is the ability to add a location at some point in the future. But yeah, you had 3 people, 4 days. I'm not going to expect that to happen. As for like styling, it is a little plain, but all the functionalities there, I really have no complaints. Awesome job.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Dustin. Next, Devin.
All right. So I first want to say welcome back, Michael. I know you were presenting last time, and one of the critiques that I gave you last time for that Mentor Me project, you had an amazing introduction, and then you hopped into a sentence that had like some really complex words that I couldn't quite get. This introduction, flawless. I understood every single word, every bit of the way. I know maybe that sounds picky, but it's really great because that initial elevator pitch is important for anybody that you're presenting to. Presentation style I thought was good. Well, once you mentioned kind of like what Michaela was saying, how small that team was, with that in mind, a couple of things that I think would be helpful to add to the app. Whenever the map shows up, you could have maybe some sort of little thing that pops up at the bottom. Just let the user know like the map is just like a display and it's not like a true map. And then also maybe a little more difficult to add in, but would be really nice is if you could hover over the icons and it would have like a little bubble up saying what the location was. I think those 2 additions would be really nice to the app. Yeah, but I think Dustin and Michaela touched up on a lot of the critique. I just want to let you know it was good. It was good.
Thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Sharks. Thank you, Michael. I think this app, I agree with all of their feedback. It looks amazing. If you want my opinion, when you fill out a form to add your catch in a lake, I would say that when you submit, maybe a pop-up just to let the user know that it's been submitted would be useful for the user, but that's just a user experience thing to think about. But no, yeah, super awesome work. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. That was incredible. I definitely agree with everyone here. That was really well done. And yeah, Michaela brought it up. The logo was awesome. Might not seem like the biggest thing, but it kind of is the biggest thing. And thank you for that. All right. So everyone, round of applause for Michael and Fish Friends. That was awesome presentation, as usual, Michael. Thank you. Next up, we're going to be checking out Secret Family Recipes with Daniel. And once you can mute yourself, the floor is all yours, Daniel.
All right, cool. Sorry, I went to unmute myself at the same time, and I got a pop-up saying I couldn't, so I remuted myself, then couldn't undo it. It's pretty good. Didn't know that was a feature. Anyway, congratulations, everyone, on a successful build week. Please join me in a round of applause for you guys, the determined developers, and the TLs, the SLs that all make this possible. It's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much. It's times like this that make me want to celebrate with an old-fashioned handmade crepe. I can smell it now. A simple, loose batter frying in a butter-rich cast iron skillet. It was my grandmother who taught me how to make them so well. And I don't want to share this recipe with just anyone, but at the same time, it would be great to have an online access to it in a secure personal place where I can add and edit not just that recipe, but all my recipes. That's where Secret Family Recipes comes in. I can just log in here and I can see all the recipes I have saved. Let's go ahead and add in that recipe for crepes before I forget about it. We'll call this crepes. Author is honey. That was what I called my grandmother growing up. For this recipe, you'll need 1 egg. Add that in. Need 1 cup flour. Spelling issues. 1 cup water. And some melted butter. Now, although the ingredients are simple, If you've ever made crepes before, you know this real secret is in the technique. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste the instructions in here so we don't have to sit through me typing those out. And we're going to tag this breakfast since it is traditionally a breakfast item. And we're also going to tag it snack because you could want this at any time of the day. And then we're going to go ahead and add recipe. And just like that, my priceless piece of personal information is saved to the internet forever. I have a lot of recipes here though, so let's go search that one out so I can take a look at it. There it is. All right. Well, I want to make a little change here. I want to add some of my grandmother's wisdom in here. And the second crepe will always be the best. Ever made crepes? You know that's true. But it was just about lunchtime, so maybe we should take a look at our lunch recipes. I just come over this sidebar, filter my recipes by lunch. I just ate though, maybe a little snack. Here's this recipe again. Let's go ahead and take a better look at it so we could appreciate what my grandmother's given me. Now that's a good recipe. Well, thank you guys. I hope you guys cook something delicious and then can save it here. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. How many people were on your team?
That's a great question. We actually had 5 people on the front end, so that's why it looks so good. Our React 1 developers did an excellent job with the styling. We had 2 of them, and we also helped out with it since we were so large.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Daniel. First shark up, we have Dustin.
All right, I know I get after all the other groups for this, but this is amazing styling. It seems like it's very fall or Halloween themed. I'm not sure if that was intentional.
It's good timing.
So if it goes in the winter, I want to see more reds and greens if that's possible. If you can change it like that,
that'd be fun to have it dynamically update. It's a good feature.
The functionality seems awesome. One thing I did notice, going to create another recipe.
This?
Yeah, I don't like how it's so small.
The form's a little tight.
Yeah, I'd also like to see some padding or something on the inside, so once you get to a text box that gets to the bottom, it doesn't look like it's just disappearing.
Okay.
And then same for when you're editing. It looked like it was hard to read the text, like it was highlighted or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, when we're editing the card.
Yeah, like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, it was just to show that we are actually editing the card, but perhaps a better solution to show that it's editable would be better.
And I'm kind of torn on the font choice. It's harder to read, but it makes sense for what it is.
It was kind of an aesthetic choice. Yeah, I agree. It could be a little hard to read at times.
But overall, this app is amazing. I think there's no other word for it. I just like how much is here, how much you're able to do. I also like the logo. Kind of reminds me of I'm not sure if the Olive Garden is all over the U.S., but it kind of reminds me of their old logo.
Yeah, one of our UI people designed it. She's a graphic design artist. She did a beautiful job.
Well, kudos to her then. But good job, and I'd like to see what this turns into the future. I'd probably use this eventually in 30 years.
Thank you for your cheeky comment, Dustin. Awesome. Thank you, Dustin. Next up, we have Devin.
All right. I want to start off by saying, Daniel, I also liked your introduction. It was good. It was good. I'm always personally a fan of someone who can provide that user story and that extra reason. I think all 3 of you guys who presented gave a good reason, a good introduction to the story, and that's definitely important whenever you're throwing a pitch or presenting a project. I did want to ask, did you guys what did you guys use for styling?
We just did styled components.
Sweet. That's what I was thinking. I think The one thing that I would comment about the styling, I do agree with what Dustin was saying with the new recipe form.
Hmm.
I think maybe if you could like turn that into a modal, so it just kind of pops up for the user.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, I think it
Similar
would
to how we have the expanding card here.
right. That way they'd have a little more space, and I think whenever you first look at the new recipe, they might not know that there's like a full scroll. So if it's a bigger view, they'll be able to have a better, I guess, kind of view of that. And then also a couple of extra styling things. I think maybe adding a little bit of maybe a shadow to the elements can add a little extra depth to the page.
Absolutely.
I think the colors are good and it's easy to like differentiate between the different sections, but adding a little extra depth to the page can help bring it to life just a little bit more. But yeah, functionality wise, it's looking really solid. I like what you said, you can click on one and see a larger view.
Hmm.
And the card's already sorted, and other than that, it looks good. Definitely agree with Dustin on the logo. I like the way that looks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Devin. And last but not least, we have Michaela.
I just wanted to start by saying I really like that you're using the whole page. I think it's really easy when you're making apps, just in general, just to like kind of shove everything to one side. But us human beings, we like to have like a full screen of information, which can be kind of difficult to do in some situations, but you've done a really good job of utilizing all of your space. I would agree. I even wrote down modal because I do not particularly like how you do the add new, because it feels a little squished down into with the other recipes. But yeah, if you like just took out that functionality from there and then just had it pop up as a modal, and then you can put all of your information, how I was saying, like the full screen, I think that would be that would make the user experience significantly better. I love these cards. They remind me of like my grandma's cards that she would flip through when she was going through like finding recipes. So I think that styling is just really, really wonderful. One recommendation is, so you see how, let me see if I can do a little bit of annotating here. So you see how like you can't quite get the bottom of there, and then like there's some more words down at the bottom here.
Mhm.
What you can do with that is just like, I don't know if this is the right word, so correct me anyone if I'm wrong, but like paginate. So it's just like it'll have a ... instead of it flowing over into the next word, or into
makes sense.
So the user knows that there's more words and there's more information there, but it's not like it's just cut off.
Absolutely. We did notice that problem towards the end, but we couldn't really think of a good solution, so it kind of got left behind. But that's a good
Yeah,
idea.
no worries. And these are nitpicky little things. I know Devin said this, but I love the story at the beginning. I like that you started out with like, here's a problem and we have this solution, and you tied it into like your grandmother's crepes, and it was a really, really great presentation. Overall, really wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for this amazing presentation.
I thank my team. I just had to do it after all the work they did. I just had to show it off.
That's awesome. Yeah, totally making me feel the Halloween vibes. Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much to all the sharks for giving your insightful, inquisitive feedback points. And I think that we can all learn something, even if it's not technically your project that you're working on. Just keeping those things in mind when a user or a new fresh pair of eyes looks at your project. What are the improvements that you can consider moving forward? And that being said, thank you to the presenters for presenting today. It's not easy to put yourself out there, and it's definitely nerve-wracking if you've never presented, especially to a bigger group before. So thank you all so much. And lastly, thank you to the Lambda Launch students for joining us today. It's definitely, you'll see that we just went through 12 weeks of our cohort. So we just finished React 2. And you can definitely get to this point very easily in a short period of time, and you'll surprise yourself how much you can learn. And I tell you, each and every student in Web23 can vouch for that. You know, at this point, could you have done what you did this build week, day one of Lambda School? Probably not. So keep on rocking on, you guys. You guys are crushing it.
Definitely. Thank you all to all the groups, as Winnie said, all the sharks as well. Thank you to Lambda Launch for coming in. Big thanks to Web23. I believe this is my last event with Web23, so I'll miss y'all. And thank you so much for, making Web23 as fun as it was. But with that said, we'll see you guys around. Good job. Bye, everyone.